Broadview, Illinois, I got to talking to one of the volunteers working the mutual aid station that had been camped out there for a month. That is, until its removal via malicious enforcement on October 30th by the village of Broadview, but that's beside the point. Regardless, the station's two tents provided a plethora of valuable services for those protesting just a couple hundred feet away. They included eye flushing for people struck with tear gas, water, snacks, first aid, shade to stay cool, campfires to stay warm, protective gear to loan out, a notice board for protest information elsewhere, a rallying point for groups, and simply a place to rest. As intense as all of it was, the volunteer I spoke with was used to dispensing food and water since they had a background as a Starbucks barista. That's when I found out about how much of a phenomenon the unionization of the coffee giant has been in just the past few years, rising to 655 unionized shops out of approximately 18,300 stores in the United States. That's over 14,000 individual workers now part of a Starbucks union, according to Union. Live. Live and online, it's Sleepless with Steve and the Movie Book Club with your host, Steve Pulaski.
This will be interesting. Back and better than ever. It's Sleepless with Steve, live on YouTube. We come to you live and in living color every Wednesday evening, 6:30 Central Time. Inching closer to the Thanksgiving holiday. First things first, got my trusty cohorts with me, Joe Viso, who without him, there's no show. So shout out to Joe for running the show and eating and doing the show. Triple threat over here. Dominic Guanzon, a third, complete with his duties today. Get more into that in a minute. Want to thank these gentlemen, first things first, though, for holding down the fort last week. Catherine and I out of town, down south in Oklahoma. So we took our annual sabbatical out there, too. So appreciate you guys holding down the fort last week with a really good review of Predator Badlands. That's on our catch-up list. That's the thing. Like this weekend's going to be a little bit of catch-up, too. We got to go back and got to watch Keeper, the new Osgood Perkins movie. Got to watch Wicked for Good, which isn't really out yet, so that's not really catch-up. But looking forward to Wicked for Good very much so. There's a running joke at the movie theater. We call it Now You Three Me. So we're gonna try and see Now You Three Me.
You're gonna get used to this A-list.
Oh yeah, no shit, right? I gotta see The Running Man too, still as well. So there's quite a lot.
I am so curious to see what you think of The Running Man.
You know, I've never seen the original. I've not seen the original, and the last time I watched the Stephen King original was, and then watched the new one was Firestarter, and I know they're not comparable, but like watch it, like God, I'm like both of these movies don't even care that they suck.
Yeah,
like
that Firestarter movie was not very memorable at all.
No. The sequel miniseries was fascinatingly stupid. Like I hated to admit it. It was like 3 hours. Both it was kind of like it. Like both parts were like an hour and a half. And I'm like, man, this sucks, but this is actually kind of entertaining. Yeah, there still has yet to be a good Firestarter movie. I know the original Running Man is like kind of mixed. At least that's what I've seen.
You know, it's beloved by people who love like the 80s action movies and everything. But
that's what it seems like.
Yeah. For people who actually wanted a proper adaptation of that book, that is not that movie. Not at all.
You know, I just keep thinking of also too, I'm a one of one in this respect. I always think since it's been back in the zeitgeist now with the new movie out, I think of the rapper Payroll Giovanni, the Detroit rapper Payroll Giovanni. He's got a song in his he's got a line in his song, man. You get your bands up, you do the running, man. You know, so that's what I think about. But yeah, it's a big catch-up week. Super excited for Osgood. Super excited for Osgood's new movie, Keeper. Hope it's not Osbad. Hope it's Osgood because he's been on a really good trajectory. Yeah, I mean. You know, I did not realize, too, like, you know, I don't know, the Longlegs, I didn't read a whole lot about Longlegs, like, critically. I loved it. Catherine loved it. I actually got the poster kitty corner over here. And we both loved it. And it was like, both loved it, wrote a huge review on it, talked to everybody about it. And then, like, when I saw the monkey, I love the monkey. And then I realized, I'm like, damn, I feel like I'm in the upper echelon of people who really, like, there's people who like it, Longlegs, and there's people that really didn't like it. And I feel like we're in the upper percentile of people who are really big Osgood Perkins fans, and I don't know why. This guy is totally weird. You know, he's had kind of a traumatic life in so many ways, and he uses that as fuel for his movies. I don't know a thing about Keeper either. I don't know a thing about it. So I'm going in blind to that one. Either way, it's good to be back with you, gentlemen. We're talking Guillermo del Toro, a name I love saying. Guillermo del Toro's new movie, Frankenstein, which is now streaming on Netflix. Dominic, it's all his fault. He's been busy as hell. Work's been jerking him around over here. Only watched a damn third of this movie.
Yep.
He's got some explaining to do over here, man. Part of the reason of picking Frankenstein was that I figured I'm like, okay, we're butting up against the holiday. It's a busy time. He doesn't have to leave the house, in order to see the movie. And then he only watches a third of it, and then like falls asleep or turns on cartoons or something. I don't know.
I wish, dude, waking up and like seeing like just the Netflix splash screen. This is a long ass movie too, so it's
Yes, it
like
is.
that's how long these naps are. So it fucks with my sleep.
Just, are you still there? Oh fuck.
Just like, oh hey, it's Christoph Waltz. Just pass the hell out. Yeah, no. Let me just say this. I work in a job that spikes in activity. And let me just say, for this holiday season, I want you to think about this is to everyone, right? I want you to think about all the holiday events you go to, and think about the shopkeepers doing extra hours, the caterers pulling all these miracles out of their asses, chefs and cooks, organizers, etc. Maintenance folks, all these, the people have to plow all this snow that even though it's not snowing right now, when it comes to it, when it rains, it pours. Same with the snow. They shit gets real during the holidays, and I'm experiencing that right now. It's been like that basically for the past couple of years. So, but I'm really feeling it now. And man, when they throw stuff at you at the last minute, in these past 3 days, I was royally pissed. It's been a fantastic. I'm probably gonna be sick next week, so we shall see where it goes. So, yeah, the move for a Netflix movie was a good one. It just wasn't enough apparently for my dumbass. But either way,
No worries. You could choose to
uh,
hang out or give your impressions of what you watched and everything like that, or so. You know what I mean?
I, I, I,
How you want to approach is totally up to you.
I watched the first half of this movie, which means I'll be here for the first half of this show. Frankenstein, Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, incredible vibes in the first third. I can give you that. I can give you that much.
That being said, Joe, how are you doing today?
I'm sorry, I had my mic muted because I was chewing.
Look at that. We're skipping dinner for this show, man.
I'm gonna paid enough to be out here. No, I'm doing good. Like Dom as well. Work does ramp up for me as well during the holiday season. Typically because that's when a lot of people at my work are going on vacation. And with the end of the year, there's a lot of stuff that a city or a village needs to put out to residents, such as, messaging about the winter season coming up, messaging about planning for next year and future city council meetings, as well as budgets and documents and a bunch of other stuff that's going to be ramped up, especially when you get to January, February, March, because those 3 months typically are the time where, residents had a nice time with their families and everything for the holiday season. Then come January, February, March, they're like, okay, I gotta go complain to the city on what they need to do better, because they're gonna talk about their strategic plan and I need to address some things around here. And so it's there's no slowdown point really. Like, sometimes the summer is, sometimes it's not. But like the end of the season, it does slow down when you get to actual Christmas break, is what I always still call it. Like I did in school, those 2 weeks is when it actually does slow down. But the rest of December, it still ramps up. But yeah, overall though, I mean, yeah, been busy though and everything. Birthdays tomorrow, hitting the big 3-0. Didn't think I would make it that far, honestly. I thought, like, 29, I'd be like, you know what, life's been cool, but I'm not going any further than that. No, I'm joking. It's just weird to actually say, like, oh shit, I'm entering a whole new set of age. Like, Now when I write my age, it doesn't begin with a 2, it begins with a 3. Like when I was so looking forward to getting to the 2 that it just flew by like that once I think like once you got past 23, 24, the 20s like kind of just became nothing. And now I'm going to my 30s. I'm like, wait, no, I want my 20s back. Like, oh man. Um, but yeah, man. Regardless, I'm looking forward to talk about this movie. I'm looking forward to Thanksgiving. I just need a break from work and everything. 2 days off where it's like they have to shut down the place no matter what is always good. Because then it's just like everybody else there is gone. Don't have to worry about coming back in and being like, oh, here's a bunch of emails I missed because I was on vacation. Yeah, looking forward.
It's good to have you guys on the show today too. We'll see how much Dom can contribute today too. It's no sweat though, man. Like I said, I understand it's a busy time of the year and stuff like that too.
The thing is, I'll even open, like, I like this movie so far. Like it's breezy. It's like, because like the thing with Frankenstein, right, is that it's heavy and it can be super dark and gothic and all that stuff. But for me, I'm like, or for when I'm watching here, is like, no, this is Guillermo del Toro knows to pick up the pace a little bit, particularly in this exposition, which can be the roughest part. It literally starts off with a bunch of dudes getting thrown around and shots being fired. So it's like, okay, we're doing stuff here.
This is a movie kind of with a fascinating history. And it's definitely, I knew a little bit, but I was reading even before the show. Guillermo del Toro has tried to make this movie an absurd number of times. And he has always wanted to make a Frankenstein movie since he was a teenager. That's how far back his love for Mary Shelley's story goes. It really started kind of in 2008 when he was coming up with like conceptual drawings for it and stuff. The problem was, though, was that during this time, because Guillermo del Toro has made a handful of movies, but it was around the time, kind of in the late 2000s, was after Hellboy 2 bombed. And he had a hell of a time, no pun intended, trying to get funding for Hellboy 2. And then when Hellboy 2 didn't do so well, he didn't direct another movie for 5 years. And he didn't direct another movie until Pacific Rim.
And the Pacific Rim didn't do well.
The Pacific Rim didn't do that well either. He's always been very well respected. He's an absurdly talented visual director. He incorporates a lot of Catholic themes, monster themes in his movies, a lot of amber lighting. That's kind of always been his MO. I actually think his late output. Now, I haven't seen Crimson Peak and I didn't see Pinocchio, his last Netflix movie, but I love The Shape of Water. I really love Nightmare Alley. I thought Nightmare Alley was just a terrific story. Top to bottom was really great. But it's funny how many different iterations of Frankenstein like that he's come up with. He said if he could get the funding, which is always the biggest if in Hollywood, he said if he could get the funding, he wanted to make it 3 movies, each movie featuring the different perspective. As ambitious as that is. And then by the time in like 2010, he was looking like he was going to get the funding. Universal pulled the Dark Universe out.
Oh no.
And they did not want his Frankenstein to be a part of that. They were conceptualizing their very own. And did you see Universal's Dark Universe Frankenstein? Oh, it was a great film. Excellent movie. That Dark Universe, we've talked about it on the show before. What a spectacular flop that is. And he's gone through a lot of different casting ideas. Doug Jones was originally supposed to be the creature. That was the creature in The Shape of Water. Big collaborator of his. He, at one point, talked to Benedict Cumberbatch and wanted him to be the creature, too. And I found this quote
Those
really...
cheekbones.
Oh, no, it's true. Yeah, you want somebody who looks handsomely gaunt. There you go. I wanted to read this quote because this is a really good quote. In 2016, Del Toro was talking about his efforts to make the movie, like having a difficult time getting funding, but also having a difficult time settling on his own vision for the thing. Listen to this quote. He says, Frankenstein to me is the pinnacle of everything, and part of me wants to do a version of it. Part of me has, for more than 25 years, chickened out of making it. I dream I can make the greatest Frankenstein ever, but then if you make it, you've made it. Whether it's great or not, it's done. You can't dream about it anymore. That's the tragedy of a filmmaker. You landed a 10 or you landed a 6.5, but you were at the Olympics already and you were judged. And that's a
Wow.
lot. Like you could tell, this has been in his mind forever, and like has gone kind of back and forth on how he wants to do it, how he could do it, and everything. And now it's here on Netflix. It dropped last week. I think the first tragedy, though, is that this is a movie. I mean, first off, I want to say this. It's probably the first Netflix movie since The Irishman that does not look like a Netflix movie.
Wow. That's a big claim because that came out a bit ago.
It
But
doesn't look like a Netflix movie.
I think you
And you know
might
what I
be
mean when
right.
I say that. You know what I mean when I say that. Where Netflix movies look like glorified television. We just reviewed Happy Gilmore 2 not too
Or
long
like
ago.
Another Simple Favor. Was that Netflix
That
exclusive?
was that
Wait,
was yep.
did
No,
you
no, no,
guys
no, no, no.
It was
did you guys
Amazon.
watch did you
Amazon.
guys watch The Killer with David Fincher's The Killer?
Oh yeah, that could actually
And
that's a good
all
point.
Quiet on the Western Front. I'm like, there's been two movies at least. I'm like, that came to mind. I'm like, hold on. I don't mean to be
That was
like, oh,
And let me
that
say
that
this.
was
guy.
that was a German movie that didn't count.
I I know that was a very bold, that was too bold of a claim, but I do
Sure.
know what you're saying. It does stick
Yeah.
out. Like there's more hits. Sorry, there's way more misses than there are hits in
You,
the aesthetic front. Yeah.
you know what? Like when you think of like, oh, there's Maestro as well. Shit. All right. But anyways,
That I didn't see.
when you think of like Oscar like potential, immediately The Irishman is what came to my mind since seeing this movie. I was like, oh, this is gonna be their Irishman.
Fair. And I think that like The Killer's a good movie. Is a really good movie. I think the reason I equated it to The Irishman too is just the scale.
Yeah.
Is the
Sure.
scale of it too. All Quiet on the Western Front's got an epic quality to it too. I'm not going to dismiss that. That was a really good. That was a like a remake that had way no business being as good as it was
Yeah.
and as really dark as it was. But this thing though looks beautiful. The tragedy of this is that it's not on the big screen, which is kind of the sour part about like really any great Netflix movie that is so visually grand is that, it's like, damn, this would have been so good in theaters. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It's weird
Yeah.
watching Del Toro on a small screen. That said, Oscar Isaac plays Victor Frankenstein. Then you've got, who's very popular right now, Jacob Elordi, who is in a lot of different things too. He was in Priscilla, which I really loved him in that one too. He was in Euphoria, which was kind of his big hit. That and the Kissing Booth series, which I didn't watch. Then you also got the great Mia Goth, who plays Elizabeth Frankenstein. Mia Goth, phenomenal. Too, just in general. Mia Goth, like for a woman who looks so unique, Mia Goth is such a chameleon. You know what I mean? Like she doesn't
That's
look
true.
like anybody else in Hollywood. She really doesn't. She's just got this unique look to her, but she can chameleon herself into really any movie. Obviously, the X trilogy. I think she's going to be kind of forever known, especially amongst horror movie fans, for that.
Yeah.
She was really good in Infinity Pool, that was directed by Cronenberg's kid. She was really good in that too. But this is definitely a movie that's visually gorgeous, very grand as well in terms of I feel like at points, and we'll get to this later on. I feel like at points the sets sort of swallow the humans in the movie. They kind of engulf
Yeah, I can see
a,
that.
a lot of
Um,
a lot of some of the emotional tethers. Do you want to chime in,
Yorgo,
Don, based on what you've seen?
yeah, I need to interject as much as possible because this is all I can contribute. Yorgos Lanthimos. Poor Things. Thank you. I'm thanking myself.
I was gonna
It
say,
was
why'd
on
you
my
say
mind.
thank you for?
It was on my mind for the past like minute, but um, Poor Things. I'm getting a lot of Poor Things vibe to the point where it's like, okay, we're doing like the classic, um, you know, live autopsy scene in front of a class of people.
Yeah.
But in both, that was more. Poor Things was more fantastical, right? There was more fantasy elements or like exaggerated elements. Here, it's more realism in its sets so far, at least in the first third. But for me, like what I like engaging about both of those is the depth of detail. Like the scene where Frankenstein is showing off his like very first concept of like bringing something to life,
Yeah, that was cool in the lecture hall.
like okay, that had to have been practical effects,
Yeah.
or they made that CGI really good to the point where it looked
He's
practical.
so loyal. Del Toro's so loyal to practical effects. I would
Yeah,
believe a lot of this
yeah.
movie is because a lot
The
of this movie just like looks so
I
authentic, and we've seen
I
how
I
CGI laden movies look now.
other than Nolan, like he's like he's like up there in terms of that dedication. Yeah,
I really think the only CG in this movie was just the animals. That was it. Like everything else, I really
sure.
do think was practical.
Yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely. No, I agree. I agree with that too. And it's always like fascinating with passion projects, with director passion projects, like Martin Scorsese's Silence, Warren Beatty's Rules Don't Apply, movies that have been in the works for decades, that have have gone through multiple script revisions, multiple casting changes, multiple vision changes, and just the natural element component of age and like changing perspectives and in this case the differences in interpretation of text. How I've read it too, this is very loyal to Shelley's story. This is about 90%. I was reading from a couple different sources, this is about 90% of Shelley's story too, so he's very loyal in the regard of keeping this story grounded to its original works. What say you, Joe? You've talked the least. What say you?
When this was first announced, I mean, this just sounds like a match made in heaven for me, where it's like you take a director who has done stuff like not total creature feature where like the creature's going around killing people, but like is known for having these practical monsters and great makeup from Hellboy to The Shape of Water, Pan's Labyrinth. I mean, like, list goes on with Del Toro. It sounds like, oh man, like this was, you could see why it's his passion project that he would want to do this. I mean, hell, The Shape of Water has elements of Frankenstein in it, where it's an outcast that's being like, that's shunned by society and everything. A human person like ends up falling in love with it and everything. A lot of, I would say, plenty of his stories that usually feature a monster have some element of this story in there, so you can see why he's been wanting to do this for quite some time. So long that like the cast of this movie changed throughout the years, like you were saying. I mean, like hell, Oscar Isaac was supposed to be Frankenstein, and Andrew Garfield was supposed to be Doctor Frankenstein, or I
huh?
should say the monster, if you want to get all technical about it. And then eventually Andrew had to back out due to other commitments and other films that he had, as well as the writer's strike and the actor's strike as well. That eventually just Oscar was like, "Hey, I can do Doctor. We'll just have to find someone else to play the monster." Which then Jacob Elordi came in and to do that. Um, that being said, everything that Del Toro's known for in visual schemes is on full display here. The visuals in this movie are great, from the costumes to the sets to just scenery. I mean, there's this great cutaway. I don't know if you saw this one, Dom. When Dr. Frankenstein is trying to find body parts for basically to like assemble the creature and everything, and they're going to like an old battleground where like a battle just
Yeah.
happened. Okay,
Uh-huh.
that shot of the horse frozen in place with like the general also
That was
frozen.
sick.
I'm like, that's such a Del Toro thing. Like that screams Del Toro from how gothic, dark it looks, and just the fantastic imagery of it too. The score in this movie too. It's really damn good. I mean, we made a joke in the green room about like it'll put you to sleep, but it fits the mood of the movie perfectly. It really does. It captures what Del Toro wants to do. Now here comes my however. I know a lot of people were loving this movie, and maybe because I didn't see it on the big screen, maybe that's why I didn't fall in love with it as much as everybody else did. But I feel like the first half of this movie is really lacking a lot of substance compared to the second half. When you're
Okay.
following Dr. Frankenstein, it's interesting, but as his story continues to play out and everything, he kind of flips on a dime on what he wants in terms of like either his objective of making this creature come to life to what he wants to do with the creature. And it's really weird because you're following him and he's really passionate about his work and everything. And you would think like, oh, like for him to be this passionate, once he gets there, we'll see it like devour him. But like I said, he flips on a dime throughout his second half of his movie because the movie's split into two parts. Part one is told from Dr. Frankenstein's perspective. Part two is told from the monster's perspective. the second half of Dr. Frankenstein's perspective really falls off for me. I felt like Oscar Isaac, while he is good, the writing here is just not selling this character to me, and he's not really being. I know, like some people told me, like he's not supposed to be likable, but when you get to the end of this movie, it almost feels like you're supposed to have like some sort of like empathy for him by the end, just like you have empathy for the monster as well. Um, Even when the monster is introduced into Frankenstein's story, it does everything that you've seen with other Frankenstein movies. And I'm glad you brought up Poor Things down, because the entire time I was just sitting there thinking, I'm like, shit, you know what Poor Things did really well, which was it took the Frankenstein formula and it didn't just revamp it and refreshen it and give it a whole new thing by having like it be a woman instead of Frankenstein. I know there's the Bride of Frankenstein and everything. I know there's that. But the characters in that movie were full of so much life to them. And I understand that this movie is dark and it is, it is a sad depiction of, what this monster goes through and everything. But that hasn't stopped Del Toro in the past from having characters who are really fun or really interesting to see play out from beginning to end. And with this movie, once I got to the halfway point, I kind of was like, there's nobody in this story I'm really attached to until we get to the monster's perspective. And you latch onto the monster because of the obvious reasons. It's the monster. It goes through so much hate and everything, and the how society treats him. I don't mean to bring up the society, but it's definitely like that feels more of Del Toro's wheelhouse when you get to the monster's perspective. And shit, hearing you say that there was gonna be 3 films of this, Steve, if that was the case, then the film that focuses on Dr. Frankenstein, I think, would have been kind of a bore, and then the film focusing on the monster would have been like, now this is what I'm talking about. I don't know.
That would have been a muchness.
Yeah, that I don't know who the third perspective would be. Maybe it's the ship crew who's just sitting there watching the story the whole time and being like, well, shit, like, this is crazy. Like, y'all got to work this out. Like,
he'd have been the guy, what was it, the guy in the monkey that always said, shit, man, that sucks.
There you go. So, for me, it's an uneven movie at times, where it's just like, for everything it's doing right in terms of, like, being this grand scale movie that I was hoping it to be, it also kind of forgets that it's telling a story at times. And yes, while it is like, sorry, you're over there, I keep pointing this way. While you are right, this is 90% accurate. I had to read this book for high school and everything, and this was one of my favorite books reading growing up as well. Shelley, though, spends way more time with the relationship between the doctor and the monster than Del Toro does. Del Toro, when he gets to that point in the story, it feels like he kind of airbrushes over like that part. Like, we're just going to skim the top right here so I can get to the monster stuff immediately. There's supposed to be a lot more meat on that bone, so you fully understand why the doctor is like, nah, I gotta get rid of him. And you fully even understand. I mean, you get why the monster wants his revenge, but you feel way more attached to the monster in his story of being like, oh my god, this guy needs justice in some sort of way.
I think for sure that like carving the movie into 4 chapters, that's like the prelude, Victor's story, the creature's story, and then the coda.
Yeah, like the epilogue basically. Yeah.
The epilogue of it, if you count that too. I feel like doing that kind of made this movie staccato in a way.
Yeah.
It did not. It did not. And this is where I go back to, like, I feel like the visuals kind of swallow the characters of this movie at times. I feel like the structure does the same thing. I feel like you don't get sort of the relationship between Victor and the monster that you desire, or that you kind of go in hoping for. And it is no fault of the individuals here, because I think this movie has really tremendous performances. I think this really feels like a Lordy's breakout role too, for a kind of role that he's never really done.
He's even said that about himself. He said, like, when they premiered this at Cannes, like, it felt like he was finally recognized as an actor, where he was just like, oh my god, I actually got to act in front of, like, a camera and everything, not be the pretty boy. And even with stuff like Saltburn and whatnot, like, it wasn't really, like, his time to shine. Like, he was good in it, but this allowed him to be the star of something finally.
And the same thing with Priscilla too. That was the movie about Elvis's wife, and he's good in it. He really is. He's understated. He's very good in it, but the story's not about him, number one, and you're not going to do better than Austin Butler's Elvis.
I was about to say, it doesn't help that there was another Elvis movie that same year.
Yeah, so you were not going to get the fucking credit either way. Even on the basis the movie's called Priscilla too. You know what I mean? But so that's why it feels like Elordi has arrived with this thing, and he's been great elsewhere. But this kind of like transformative, like physical role for him is really good. I think with this movie, the issue that I had with it too. I mean, first off, it's 2 hours and 20 minutes sans credits. It feels its length. It's a long role. It's a long movie, and it feels too long at times. And I think that goes back to sort of like you were saying, Joe, too, the lethargic nature of the Doctor, of his storyline. Oscar Isaac's really good. I mean, in breaking news, like Oscar Isaac's fucking fantastic. You know what I mean? Like he's a guy.
He's just a very solid actor. Like you can never.
Great.
Solid to great. So it's like in all of his roles. So like he'll never let you down. I don't think he ever has.
Yeah, everybody thinks of Star Wars. No, it's true.
He was one of the best parts of he was one of the best parts of that trilogy.
I said X-Men Apocalypse. I do agree with you about Star Wars though.
No, I said
I didn't see Apocalypse.
Oh,
yeah.
I wasn't criticizing Star Wars by any means or his role in Star Wars. I'm just saying he's always remembered for Star Wars. The two that always come to mind for him with me is Inside Llewyn Davis, which is my pick on the short list of one of the best movies of the last decade of the 2010s. Inside Llewyn Davis. He's got a lot to do with that. And also one of the most underrated movies of this decade, The Card Counter, back in 2021.
I thought you were saying Most Violent Year. I like him in that movie a lot too.
That's another underrated movie too. I will say I love The Card Counter when he's the traveling gambler. I thought that was just a wonderful showcase. He gets into the hotel rooms and ties like everything in sheets. You know, like it's just a weird movie. One of those dramas that plays like a thriller. Like that's a tremendous performance.
I mean, for God's
from him.
sakes,
But
this man played Jesus and Satan in one movie. Like,
he did.
That's how good of an actor he is.
Isaac's phenomenal. Like he really is, and he's really good here. I will say, like the crowning, it feels like a cheap maybe a cheap compliment or like kind of a cheap choice. The best part of Victor's story, the second part of the movie, my favorite part was the castle blowing up. I honestly, I love
that's a spectacle.
That.
Yeah,
that's a spectacle. It looks great, and it's grisly, like because that chapter is kind of unlike Del Toro in a way because it's not as much about the monster, it's not as much about the creature, but it's more about obviously Victor Frankenstein. But that like. With I don't want to ruin it, but the gruesome part of that scene that like you almost don't notice at first. You think he like broke his neck or broke his collarbone the way he lands, and then it shows you something else. That kind of felt like the invitation for the creature story, which I also agree with you too, Joe, is the better half of the movie because that is what Del Toro has been about for eons.
It's what saves the movie for me. It gave this movie a whole other star for me because there was a point I'm like, hey man, look, I'll give you all the praise and flowers in the world for the filmmaking aspect of this, but the storytelling's part, I'm like, it's just not working for me right now.
No, I agree there.
That's actually really funny because like I said earlier, it's like, yeah, this is a really breezy movie. Like this is, it's fast.
Just you wait.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
so
just you wait. Like,
I guess
when you said
that would
breezy,
have come to bit me in the ass.
I didn't want to critique. When you said breezy, I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, no, the Naked Gun was breezy. Like,
look, I should say, you're right. Relative to what we're dealing with, which is Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, it's breezy. I was not expecting it.
No, it opens. It opens and it starts. I mean, it starts at a great point. It really does. Yeah. And it gets you in the world, but it's like it feels like once you're in the woods, once you're like in the metaphorical woods, so to speak, then it really starts to feel like it really starts to drag ass at times.
I'm not kidding, but like once they start assembling the monster, like when they're actually back at the lab, him and Christoph Waltz are doing their thing. That's to me where this movie, and when Mia Goth's character is also introduced into the mix as well. It starts to be like, okay, what are what are we doing now with the doctor? Once the monster comes to life and everything, it's like, okay, here we go, let's go. And it just loses me. I'm like, man, I thought we were gonna do something here with this. This is being built up and everything. It really sucks to say because I love films during this time period. I love Nosferatu being set in this time period and everything. I love when we get like gothic stuff like this. It's great. And when I heard this, I'm like, oh my god, this is like when I heard Robert Eggers was gonna make Nosferatu. I'm like, this just sounds perfect. We're finally gonna get this movie.
Oh my god, thank you, Nosferatu. That was the other movie I was trying to remember. Like, yeah, we're doing really well in these past couple of years with the gothic movies.
What's like, yeah, the classic gothic stories, yeah.
I totally agree. You know, we got, and I mean, like Eggers is like the new generation.
Yeah,
the new.
We're gonna get a proper Wolfman from him too.
Yes, yeah, werewolf.
Well, hopefully, fingers crossed.
And Eggers feels like, I'm not saying he's better. I really like Del Toro. I don't always love his movies, but I love that he is making movies, and I love his commitment to his own style. Eggers feels like this new generation's Del Toro, you know, in a way. Like more New England though, kind of more new, like where Del Toro is kind of more worldly in a way. I know he's Mexican, but like he kind of has a broader reach on movies or like the global landscape and everything like that.
Yeah.
Where Eggers feels like distinctly New England, you know, especially old New England.
Yeah.
Right. You know, oxymoron intended. But
I need a proper Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde from somebody.
No, I agree there. That's a good point too. That's the one that's always referenced, but we haven't gotten. Yeah. You know, that like we haven't gotten a Jekyll and Mr. Hyde movie since like Christ lost his sandals. The last great Jekyll and Hyde thing we got was the amazing Arthur song. Yeah, I know. It was the amazing Arthur song by The Brain, if you remember. Jekyll Hyde. That was the last great Jekyll and Hyde piece we got. We'll be
back after this Zoom-sponsored intermission. It's been great hanging out with you guys. That's all I've got to say. So right now, we'll be back soon enough with Sleepless with Steve right after these messages.
I will prove to you that I'm one of the biggest Weird Al nerds to ever walk the earth. What is the opening line in this movie? It's heard on the radio when Daniel Radcliffe as Al is it's not Daniel Radcliffe at that point, but when Weird Al is young and listening to that radio under his covers, a Dr. Demento show, the opening line of the movie, and it comes from the radio, it's like, gabardine suits are 30% off. No Life Me over here did the Leonardo DiCaprio point at the TV screen and said to nobody except for my two long-suffering cats over here. That's a reference to his parody of King of Pain by the Police called King of Suede.
Nice.
In King of Suede, he plays a fabric salesman who owns a fabric store. And the opening line of that song, there's a sale on our gabardine suits today. They're all 30% off from yesterday. Your boy knew that. And I bet you there's less than 10 people that caught that. I bet you there's less than 10 people that caught that because King of Suede is one of my favorite Al songs.
There are some Weird Al super stands out there. And you are one of them, for sure. But I think there's more than you might be letting on. But
I want to know how many people picked up on gabardine suits being 30% off. But anyway, though, this is the long-awaited adaptation of the Funny or Die sketch that came out, 12 years ago. Directed by the same man who directed the movie, Eric Apple.
Directed the sketch?
Yeah, he directed the sketch, too. Eric Apple directed the Funny or Die sketch in 2010. That had Aaron Paul. This one has a whacked-out, weird, unhinged performance by Daniel Radcliffe, which is the crowning jewel of this movie. Daniel Radcliffe is great. And the funny joke about this, too, like there's a couple things with Daniel Radcliffe playing Al that's funny in itself. Number one, he looks like him to a degree. You can tell there's a lot of costuming to make him look like Weird Al, number one.
Yeah.
And number two, I don't know if you know this, Weird Al is a tall drink of water. That guy's like 6'3", 6'4".
He's tall as shit.
He's huge. And it's hard because you see him in videos, it doesn't do him justice. You look at him like standing next to fans. The guy is a giant. I saw him in concert, and I was like maybe 6 rows back. He's huge. He's a towering figure. And Daniel Radcliffe is probably my height. like 5'10", 5'11". So that's kind of one of the jokes of this movie too, is that like if you catch it, is like, man, he's definitely shorter than Al by several inches. But this movie is very much not to be taken seriously. This is a total satire, a parody movie, probably one of the first parody movies we've gotten in a long, long time.
Yeah, man.
That is sort of an exaggerated, hyper exaggerated, not only telling of Weird Al's life, but also the rock and roll biopic genre in general, which we have quite a few examples to go off of over the last several years: Bohemian Rhapsody, Rocket Man, and Elvis. However you feel about those three movies, and I feel some type of way about each, those three movies are drastically different from each other in ways to make a biopic. Elvis almost is sort of an amalgam between the two, but to a dialed up degree. Where Weird, on the other hand, is just like, again, like the kissing cousin to pop star Never Stop, Never Stopping. That's been the point of comparison I made even when the trailer dropped. I said this movie is going to be very much in that wheelhouse, and it absolutely is. What say you generally about Weird, the Al Yankovic story?
This I actually did not know about the Funny or Die sketch, the original sketch way back when.
Oh, okay. And then there were two. Back and better than ever at Sleepless with Steve after a Zoom-sponsored intermission. Dom left us because he only watched a third of Frankenstein, but he gave his thoughts on what he called a breezy movie, which I thought was great. I thought we had some good banter.
I was like, yeah, he didn't see this movie then if he's saying that. I mean, he did see it, but he didn't get to where I was like, because I thought the same thing. When this first started, I'm like, oh, this ship introduction's great. How we're setting, I'm like, this whole lecture hall sequence with Dr. Frankenstein and introducing Chris, I'm like, all this is great, all these introductions. And when it's like, all right, we have all the ingredients. All right, Del Toro, what are we putting in the pan? Why are we making the pan look better? Well, we gotta put the ingredients in the pan. We don't have to make the pan look better.
No, you don't need to break out two pans. You don't need to break out two pans. Now he's putting olive oil on the other one.
What the fuck? Why are you putting the lid on there? I know the lid looks good, but...
Now he's got a pot for some reason. Now this one's smoking.
Oh my god! Here's some seasoning. It's called the monster sequence of the story.
What the hell is he doing with Worcestershire sauce now? Oh, finally some crushed red pepper, my favorite. Oh man! I was gonna say I would have went for kosher salt, but anyway. What a great analogy. Yeah, and this is the thing too with this movie, is that like you never get tired of fucking looking at it. Like you never get sick of looking at the thing. I mean, this is like the thing, and I saw this levied as a complaint. I was just doing a little skimming, like maybe about half an hour before the show. That's where I found the Del Toro quote I shared earlier. I was just doing a little skimming about what everybody's saying about this movie. I mean, it's got an 86 on Rotten Tomatoes too, so it's very well received, and it deserves to be praised. Some were complaining about this. I don't have a problem with this too, especially in a world where everything, no pun intended, is artificial. You know what I mean? I have no problem with this. Some people were griping that and I made the complaint that I feel like the settings kind of swallow the characters at times too. Some people were saying that like Del Toro kind of lingers on the sets too long. I don't think that's a problem. I don't think there's any issue with him like admiring what they've built with this movie, especially when structure and architecture are so incorporated in this movie, or so incorporated in this story. Give credit where credit's due to Dan Lostson. There, got it right. Dan Lostson, for just some amazing photography work in this thing.
Yeah.
This is a movie I definitely would, come Oscar time, I think this movie's definitely going to get nodded in the makeup and hairstyling category, and the production design category, the cinematography category. Yeah. Deservedly so. This is a striking movie that breaks the confines of a Netflix movie, which is what I said earlier too. This doesn't look like a Netflix movie. At $120 million, it better not. But when you have somebody, I find it interesting that there's been so few, and I mean there's so few truly Pantheon like Hall of Fame directors working today. But like Scorsese and Del Toro have like found a way, and Fincher found a way to sort of break out of the confines of Netflix and make something that still does look like a true theatrical movie.
Yeah. That's why I didn't mind the setting. Like, as you're saying, I do agree with you. It does swallow the characters, but I didn't mind it because I also looked at the sets and the setting itself as a character of its own. It's an interesting, like it's definitely like, a time period like, the 1600s, whatever. But like, you have the what's it called? The steampunk aesthetic to this movie as well when you get to the laboratory sequences
A
and
little bit.
the big batteries that are in there, the voltage like holders, and of course the whole sequence of bringing the creature to life and everything during the lightning storm and everything. It's amazing. It looks great, man. Like, that's why I didn't mind it too much, because it's like, A, we don't get a Netflix movie looking like this, so I'm not gonna dock one when it does look like this, and B, bro, it's part of the story. It's a character in its own right when you're dealing with a story like this. Yeah, in the book, it's like, they don't go into great detail about, like, the environments and everything around. Well, they do, but like, not to this extent. But for a film adaptation, this is why you want to do it in this medium, is to showcase it like this. So like, that didn't bother me. I could see complaints like that. I could totally understand that. It didn't bother me though. I've seen plenty of other movies like The Creator, where it's like that setting and its effects and visuals completely overshadowed the story. I might have agreed with people had the second half of the story been exactly the same for me like it was during the first half.
How did you feel about the creature's design?
Oh, Steve, why do you have to bring about a bad point, bro? I'm gonna say this. Del Toro, come on, man. You're better than this.
It's underwhelming, isn't
It,
it?
it really is, especially with all the hype going into this movie of like, oh, you're gonna see what it looks like. He just looks like a jacked up albino guy, like with just a few battle scars and everything. Like, it's just like, I was so let down with how the creature looked and everything. That like it almost made me go, all right, maybe this movie's just not as good. If had it not been for, like I said, the strong story in that second half and Jacob Elordi's performance and you know the dialogue he has between this old man character as well, which I thought was really good, and some of the thoughts he has while he narrates the story and everything. That's what made me love it. I did think, yeah, this creature design was underwhelming. Was I expecting the bolts in the neck and the green skin? No, not at all. But I was expecting something like The Shape of Water, like Hellboy, like every other. Like, look at Pan's Labyrinth. Those creatures are amazing to look at. So when I hear, oh, this is Del Toro's passion project, and he's gonna make Frankenstein, this is gonna be one of the most unique looking Frankenstein monsters we've seen. No, it's just a guy with stitches, and it's like, are you serious right now?
And Nosferatu, Egger's movie wasn't perfect, but it was very good, and the
Yeah,
creature design on
was
Nosferatu was
unique.
outstanding.
Yeah,
The
it was.
introduction to Nosferatu was outstanding.
Yeah,
When you first hear his voice is chilling. And this movie, on the other hand, because inevitably any Frankenstein movie, you're going to be enthralled, you're going to be excited and intrigued by what they do for the character design. And this doesn't look great. The makeup is fine. Like,
yeah,
it's fine. But the conceptual design for the creature is underwhelming. It's nothing to do with Elordi. It's nothing to do performance wise. It just doesn't look great. And I think it's also, one could make the argument, it's like a testament. We've had so many visual directors take on so many monsters, and horror movies have shown us so much weird shit in the last 10 years and whatnot. The Annie's trying to get up and everything like that, and it's getting difficult to do and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like even 10 years ago, this thing probably would have been a little bit underwhelming
it
too.
would have been.
Especially,
Yeah.
it shows you how high the bar is for Del Toro too to clear, and it's a bar he set himself. And so I'm glad I'm not alone in just feeling like, yeah, the character design on that does not look great.
And
I, I,
I get
li- I
it.
like how Lordy moves. I like how he moves. I like how he functions,
He
but I
he
don't like the
he
design.
he really brings like what the character is in the book. Like, it's all already here. It's not the makeup or anything. Um like, they put like, they like, all these scars on his face because they just threw the image up and everything. All the scars on his face and everything. And they put like blocks like to show it's like, it's imperfect skin as well because it's just pieces of dead people stitched together and everything. But like, it just didn't hit the way I thought it was going to. I would have loved it if like parts of him, what he looks like near the end of the movie, I'm like, nah, that's fucking Frankenstein. I'm like, it's just like that's a cool Frankenstein design. Like some of it's decaying, like his finger is just literally a bone at this point. I'm like, why not go with that? Where it's just like after that would have been cooler. Is if okay, when he's first introduced, it looks smooth. It looks like, it's stitched together and everything because he just got out of the lab. But then after Dr. Frankenstein blows up the lab and everything, he even becomes more like of a creature, of a monster. Like his look and everything. Because like the way people react to him, I'm like, yeah, I get it. He's got scars on him and everything, but it's like any person I feel like would just be like, hey man, are you okay? Were you in battle or something? Because like somebody even says that to him, and I'm just like, I feel like this would just be the normal response. If there's battles happening throughout this land around here, people probably think this guy was like some war hero or something.
She feels kind of underused, but Mia Goth does a good job. She
She
feels a
does.
little
For the little time
underutilized.
she's in the movie, she honestly shines for the time she's in the movie.
Yeah, I thought she was great. I could have done for more Elizabeth Frankenstein. I could have done for more. I thought she really stands out too.
Yeah.
Being like the only female in the fucking story too. You know what I mean? Like I thought she stands out. Um, Especially just kind of in like trying to get through to Victor, which is thankless. You know what I mean? Trying to get like through to him and understand him and the complex person he is. I
Yeah.
thought she brings in some ways more humanity than the main characters do in this
Yeah.
thing. Like it's like Goth found the sort of humanity side of this thing that I think is kind of missing.
Yeah.
And that's really what I liked. And then you also have Christoph Waltz in it too. It's very good. Christoph Waltz as well. I never shy away from him. He plays Harlander, who's Elizabeth's uncle, who's also the benefactor of Victor's experiments too.
Yeah.
You know, sort of the one who gives him all the funds and stuff like that for it. Yeah, I'll tell you though, like it's a good movie. It is. It's a good movie. It's a solid movie too, but it does leave you wanting, or at least left me wanting. It left me wanting, and it's a testament to really the high bar that Del Toro has set for himself and his works. And I like Isaac. I like Elordi a lot, and I'm always interested to see what Del Toro's going to do
Yeah.
from here. Overall, though, for me, I might as well just parlay into closing thoughts right now too. For me, it's 2.5 out of 4 stars.
For me, it's 3. And like I said, it
You do
earned
go
that.
up. You do go up.
What's up?
You do go up to 3. Sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt you.
Yeah. I was at 2. When you get to the monsters part of the story, I do feel like there's a lot more emotion there, given the fact that you're following the monster. It makes sense. But I also really loved the cabin sequence. I loved how that played out. And I really do like, the how it does ramp up to the ending and everything, and like kind of the reconciliation that these two characters have, even though I don't feel like Victor's part is entirely earned. It's like I said, it's uneven, but it gets 3 stars for me because of that second half. Its visuals, its score, almost every other thing about the filmmaking. But like Del Toro, like this is the issue I had with you with Crimson Peak. You got lost in its setting and you didn't care about the characters. You did astounding in Nightmare Alley. When I saw Nightmare Alley, I said this is one of his best movies he's made, maybe even the best. So I thought like, okay, his next thing's Pinocchio, fantastic. The next thing's Frankenstein. Boom, we're gonna have 3 hits back to back from this guy. He's about to pull a hat trick with 3 movies, and I get it, and I watch it, and I went, maybe not, and I was just a little let down. It could have been, it really could have been a 4-star movie like Nightmare Alley was for me, like his Pinocchio movie was for me, but no, it is 3 out of 4 stars for me.
Yeah, and like I said, I know there were some screenings of this thing in
I really
theaters or
wish I did
whatnot.
see this on the big screen, honestly, too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Like, this feels like it should have been, and I know it's Netflix, it never would have been. This feels like it should have been a Christmas movie, like a
You're kind
Christmas
of right,
release.
man. With it being in the snow and also just, the whole thing about love and, all these other like themes that it brings up, I did kind of get a Christmas vibe from it, because he plays with the snow a lot in this movie. There's a lot of scenes in snow and like winter as well. It does help. I guess it does help that literally a point in the story where people are narrating this is literally characters stuck in ice. So yeah, yeah, man. I'm hoping that because he's got a lot of movies lined up. I really do hope he does return to some point and do another classic horror story, but this time hit it out of the park. Not just hit it to first.
I agree. I agree. I hope. I mean, who knows? He might do a Jekyll and Hyde movie. I don't know if he
Oh,
will
dude.
now. He might. I mean, I feel like Pinocchio, even though I didn't see Pinocchio, was kind of the warm up for this. It's kind of like the warm up pitch for this, that he was finally going to make Frankenstein.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that turned out, but I love Nightmare Alley. I think Nightmare Alley might go down as one of his most underrated movies.
Yeah.
Or at least the one that people forget that he did. You know what I mean? Because he's done like, Blade and Hellboy and Frankenstein and more noteworthy projects. But like, as far as a story is concerned, though, man, I still think about Nightmare Alley. It helps when I have the poster hanging up. But like,
I remember I talked to friends. I didn't mean to cut you off there. Sorry, go on.
no, you're fine. I was done.
I remember talking to people being like, "Oh, who would you want to direct a Jekyll and Hyde movie?" Honestly, I think Jordan Peele would do a fucking great job with a Jekyll and Hyde movie.
I could see it.
Like,
yeah, I could see Peele.
I feel like he could find a cool social lens through it too, even if he wants to do like a modern retelling of the story. But if you want to go classic and everything, yeah, man, I feel like it's gotta be like Del Toro or like fuck, even maybe Denis Villeneuve. I don't know. Like,
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, I was just thinking Villeneuve.
Yeah.
For something like that too. I don't know if Villeneuve's got a. I mean, he did do Suspiria, but I don't know if he's got a ton of interest in horror, like you know what I mean on that level.
I
But
feel like he could do it in a thriller sense, similar to like Enemy and some other movies he's made. But he will have to. It would have to be a way of him stretching his director chops to like kind of tap more into the horror side of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
definitely. I liked our discussion. Thought we did a good job kind of unpacking Frankenstein, the new Guillermo del Toro
Yeah.
movie, which again is now streaming on Netflix. I think it's probably only going to get even bigger. I think this is going to be, because I always talk about how these Netflix movies, they're here today and gone tomorrow. I do think this thing at least virtuously comes out right around Thanksgiving, so I think it's going to get a lot of play on the holidays and stuff like that, so I'm glad we were able to tackle it before the holiday. Next week we're off, though, because Thanksgiving, shockingly, somehow, some way, is next Thursday.
Honestly,
So
if
we
you
are
could
off
find this
next
playing somewhere in theaters, because it's playing at my local theaters, a few of them, but it's the asinine show times of 10 a.m. and 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, if you can find it in theaters, it's definitely something to see on the big screen. You'll be envied. You'll be envied, I think, if you do. So far, as of today, it's made only 422,000 in theaters.
Okay.
It's which I would have thought it would have made more, because this thing does seem to have a little bit more theatrical exposure than most Netflix movies get.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Which I am
thought it would have
surprised
been
by.
more.
Like, but like again, it's like they didn't fucking really promote that this thing was in theaters. Every time you saw something for this movie, you see that big Netflix logo, and you're like, oh, okay, it's coming. Like, honestly, I think if Netflix really wants to get like theatrical money, don't advertise it as a Netflix movie. Have people discover that when they sit down and watch the fucking thing.
No, it's really true. Like they do and they only do it for like Oscar contention and other awards things. That's the only reason they release the shit in the theaters. But I've never understood, for a company that can afford to spend this kind of money on movies, and they rely on subscriptions and everything, I've never understood why the hell they don't promote it as like a 1 week thing.
Yeah.
And even if you're not going to break the bank and top the box office, you at least get maybe a couple million. You know what I mean? You at least get a couple of million extra for a movie to see if people want to take advantage of it being on the big screen. You know what I mean?
I've never also understood, like, it's streaming. It can be accessed anywhere. I never understood, like, why not let theaters have a re-release of some of your big, like, movies? Like, why not be like, hey, like, over the summer we're gonna re-release Roma into theaters? Like, it won't really cost you anything. And, like, maybe you have to send the projection reels out, or if you want to just have it be like digitally through a digital projector and everything.
It'll
but
be just through digital.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's just like I don't know why they don't do that, because it's like there are so many Netflix movies I would love to see on the big screen. I know we kind of harped on the fact that like this is one of the few that looks like it, but the ones that do, it's like fuck, I want to see this on the big screen. Roma's one of them, especially.
Roma's a good choice, underrated choice. The Irishman,
Yeah.
is another one that would look phenomenal, I think. There's quite a few. Nobody would be clamoring to see Bright. Nobody would be clamoring to
I
see
would.
the
I gotta see some of those scenes on the big screen and laugh at it.
Do you really? I was going to say, okay, that's more acceptable. I was like, you already saw Bright. It was another David Ayer movie. It was called The First Suicide Squad. You know what I mean?
Oh
But
man.
we're off next week. It's Wicked for Good the following week, which I believe is December 3rd, if I'm not mistaken. So we're off.
Yep.
We're off next week. Enjoy your Thanksgiving holiday. Thanks for making us a little part of your Wednesday evening as usual. For Dominic Guanzon, unseen but very much appreciated in the first half of the show, Joe Viso, and yours truly, this has been Sleepless with Steve.